What we're showing you now is a video that was produced in our engineering graphics department. It's a walkthrough, a simulation of our new W. Reynolds Technology Center, which you've probably seen the construction of. And we'll let this play for a while. We had quite a few questions yesterday about the building, and later on in the student union we will have a three-dimensional model display at the information desk that you can look at and ask any further questions you have about it. We'd also invite you to visit our website, and off of the main page you can link to the Reynolds Center page, and from there you can link to CTC, where they developed this summer in conjunction with interns that we had there, virtual walkthroughs of the building. We haven't even had the building built yet, and we're already getting lost in it virtually. You do have to have Windows 95 or Windows NT, and the Cosmo Player, and Netscape 3.0, or Internet Explorer 3.0 in order to run it. It's powered by Silicon Graphics software, and as some of you may know, much of the VR software is still very proprietary, so the Cosmo Player is specifically what has to play it as a Netscape or Internet Explorer plugin. But you can go virtually go through the entrance and a couple of other areas of the center. As you were watching the other video, you may have noticed we had a small piece of the Noble Center as it expanded from a two-story building into a three-story building. The two animations were done about 3 years apart, and when the Noble Center rendering was done, it took a 486-66, 24 hours to render it. The technology difference by the time this video was done, for one thing, you can see the difference in quality, and the rendering time was less than half of that. So just the 3 years made a tremendous difference there in the technology. We've often been asked if we're actually going to put in a reflective sidewalk in front of Noble Center. We'll have to ask Bob if he really has that in plans. Let me go ahead and make a few of the announcements today as this video continues to play. There are 2 room changes if you are looking at the calendar page in your packet. If you're looking at the abstract booklet, the rooms are correct, but the changes didn't quite get made on this sheet. The very last session of the day, we have Patsy Zink is doing a presentation. It will not be in the distance learning classroom in Noble Center. It will be in room 204. If you go to the second floor of Noble Center, you'll find a commons area, and the room 204 is just north of the commons area. This is actually her class in process. Some of you may have seen Patsy's presentations the last couple of years as she's been building towards different integration of different types of technology in her classroom, and so this year you can see it in action with the students. We also have another presentation at that time slot. White and McKee, they will not be in the OSU, in the Okmulgee room, they will be in the First National room. There's another presentation, as you can see, that is in the Okmulgee room during both time slots of the afternoon. Another thing that I'd like to mention is if any of you from the different institutions in Oklahoma are interested in what I guess I will call our AAIM initiative. AAIM is a national organization, Association of Applied Interactive Multimedia, and they're in the process at the moment of establishing regional chapters. They started out in 7 states as a consortium, particularly from the technical schools in the Carolinas. They've grown considerably over the last 5 years. Over this year, they're really looking at kind of spreading out into regional chapters across the country. If you would be interested in being part of or helping form an Oklahoma AAIM chapter, then I'd appreciate it if you would get with me or email me, or something like that, and we'll see what might materialize from that. I'd also like to announce that we will be having our next Interconnect meeting, not in 97, we'll probably call it Interconnect 97, 98, because we expect to move it to the spring so that we can have our next Interconnect in the Reynolds Center after it is up. And so we expect to have it in actually the spring of 98. And then to finish up, I'd like to say we have a speaker this morning. He's not 8 feet tall, he doesn't have feathers, and he's not bright yellow, but he does come from 123 Sesame Street. And right now I'd like to introduce our Interim Vice Provost of Academic Services, Dr. Toby Titsworth, and he'll introduce our speaker.
Thank you, Kent. It's my privilege this morning to introduce James Baum to you. About mid-1980s, I was called into the President's office at then Rogers State College, and he said, we've received this grant from the Department of Commerce, and I want you to begin work to build a television station. And I thought to myself after I left, I said, now what are we going to do with a television station? And so, of course, having been an administrator for quite a long time, I knew the first step was to hire the right person to lead that project and make sure that it happened at the right time and in the correct manner. And so we went on a national search, and we were able to hire James Baum in there. He was prominent in Tulsa, commercial television, and at that time was out in California on the West Coast, and came to us, built that TV station in record time, and many of you have heard about the distance learning program that goes on there now. They're nationally recognized for this program. One of the first things that James told me, though, when he came in, we were talking about how we were going to get this done. He said, I don't know anything about education. And so he said, I'll build the TV station and run it, and you figure out what to do with the education part of it. Well, he might have thought that at the moment, but it wasn't long because before he was a true academician, and the way he learned how to do that was he got the faculty involved directly with working the academic and the educational part of the station, and that was the key to success there, I think. From there he went on to be the Chief Operating Officer for the Louisiana Public Broadcasting System, and did some real good things there with satellite work and downlinking and all of that business. And I don't want to say too much about that because he might mention it. And now he is the President and General Manager of WLV-TV in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. James?
Gotta get switched up here. Okay, I am hot, as we say. Well, good morning.
Good morning.
Oh, come on. Good morning.
Good morning.
That's better. Well, I see from my U.S. Robotics Pilot 5000 with 1 megabyte of RAM that it's time. The alarm says it's time for us to do this little presentation. Well, this is a wonderful device, and we've been looking at this and having some fun with it. But the problem is the display is too small. I have to have the display enhancement device that goes with it. You know, I was perfect, absolutely perfect, until I turned 40. And then I went blind. Does anybody else have this problem? I mean, today I have to wear glasses so thick I can see into the future. Now that's what we're going to do this morning. We're going to take just a quick look into the future, and we're going to perhaps find about being digital. And see, I have to get this doodad out. I got too many doodads here. Okay. So today we're going to talk about what the heck is digital and why should I care? Well, it is important. It is ones and zeros, but it represents a quantum leap forward in our ability to communicate. This is the blacktop for the information superhighway. I'm sorry, that's a transportation metaphor. I promise I won't make any more. Well, maybe one more before the end of the presentation. Everybody's into those transportation metaphors. Who wants to be roadkill on the information superhighway, right? Oh, please. The next question I have for you as academicians is it distributed education today or distance education, and what happened to distance learning? I'm having trouble following you as you find new ways to describe what it is we do. I think we're still referring to the same basic concept, and that's bringing education to our clients at their place, at their time. Is this assumption correct? Can I get an amen? Amen. That's it. There you go. My father, the Baptist minister, taught me that. He also taught me that when the sermon runs a little long, if you shake your watch, he can kind of get that. So if I see you shaking your watches at me this morning, well, I'll know. I promise not to go too long because this is going to be a lot of fun. There it is. Well, one thing's for sure, we're in a new era. We've all heard about that paradigm shift, and I want to know where it went, where it's going. It is a whole new ballgame. I'm sorry, that is a sports metaphor. My apologies to you Braves fans. In school, we were taught to use at least one sports metaphor in a presentation, so there it is. One thing's for sure, we are going digital. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going digital, and it's happening. The digital environment is descending upon us like a freight train from Hades, and we've got to be ready to cope with it. And very soon, like by the end of the decade or the beginning of the new millennium, if you prefer. The FCC timetable, for instance, for advanced television is being pushed ahead because of political considerations. For example, we've been talking about going to high-definition TV for a long time, for digital television. Now we as broadcasters are being pushed into this environment because Congress would very much like to take some of our spectrum, use it as perhaps for personal communicators or for mobile cellular telephones or for whatever, and auction that spectrum off and, in fact, help pay some of the debts that this country seems to owe. What does this mean to us as educators? Well, you know your clients better than I do, of course, but let's review for just a moment. Of today's 14 million college students, only about 3 million of them are 18 to 22 years old and are resident students. The average time spent to get a 4-year degree right now is about 8.6 years. It's about 4.3 years for an associate's degree. Now, these figures are according to PBS and their distance learning department. Many community college students, and we know this for a fact, I happen to be fortunate enough to be on the community college board in my community, and we are struggling with the fact that the state has a lot of problems with us not getting students out of there with degrees. Well, many of our students, not most of them, but many of our students don't want a degree. They want 1 or 2 or 3 classes so they can upgrade their skills to continue in the jobs that they presently have or to get promoted. So we're wrestling with that whole issue right now, as I know that you are. PBS's adult learning service, by the way, now serves 370,000 students each year via television. And this will increase dramatically as we add internet components and ready our system for digital narrowcast channels. I'll talk about that a little bit more in just a minute. What does this mean to us? Well, does it mean internet drops in every classroom? You betcha. It should. And well, at the very least it should. More likely, a central network that handles all of the internet, local net functions via a wireless system, probably working out of a closet somewhere. But this is just the beginning, ladies and gentlemen. It means really smart classrooms, virtual classrooms that may only exist in the student and the teacher's minds. That's what it means to us as educators. As broadcasters, hell, it means a very fierce competition that I'm not sure where this is all going, but I do know that my competition is going to be very, very, very intense with other providers. It means narrowcasting. It does not necessarily mean broadcasting. It means your channel, my channel, customized to meet my needs. For instance, in the 500 channel environment, that's not as as intimidating as it may sound. Yeah, okay, we have 98 or 100 on our cable system in Bethlehem today, and I can sit there and wear out a cable box a month because I'm a surfer. That's what I do. I mean, I do this for a living. But in the 500 channel environment, what it means is it means a channel that you customize, that has your menus, that provides you with the programs that you want to see, and that you can filter everything else out. And that's a very important point. We're going to have to work on that because we as educators have got to get past the filter. Because if our students filter us out, we're wasting our time. It's a great opportunity, though, for us as broadcasters. It means that I can now provide, in a digital environment, 5 or more channels over the same spectrum space, over the same 6 megahertz that we presently put one analog television channel. And this isn't Buck Rogers stuff, folks. This is happening today. 2 years ago, we launched Telstar 401, which is an AT&T satellite. PBS owns 7 transponders on Telstar 401. ABC has a chunk of it, and at the time, I was with Louisiana Public Broadcasting, as you mentioned. I spent 2 years in Louisiana without parole. But we were fortunate enough to be able to purchase a transponder for the public broadcasting system in Louisiana. The day we signed that system on, we were digitally compressed, providing broadcast and 4 other discrete channels over the same 6 megahertz spectrum that we would have put one analog channel on. So that gave us, yes, our primetime broadcast programs, but then it gave us a K through 12 channel, gave us a higher ed channel, and it gave us one that we could lease out to some other good folks in higher ed for their own distance learning opportunities. And it's working beautifully. It's here, it's happening today. It can also provide things like business training, teacher development. How many people here have staff development issues that you have to deal with? Of course you do. We all have to try to stay current. But whether it's broadcast, whether it's satellite, whether it's fiber, whether it's cable, or it's a decoder ring, that's not the issue. The technology should be transparent. Ladies and gentlemen, I would submit to you that it's about content. It's content that's so important. And that's what we have to be all about. I continue to harp to my staff, I don't care. I don't care what the delivery means is. What I want to do is I want to be there as a content provider. And then there's this whole issue of high-definition television. You've all heard about HD TV. It's wonderful. It's a 16 by 9 format versus a 4 by 3 format, which is, in fact, much more like we see at the movies. I mean, it's like looking at a movie. Instead of this little box here, it would be across our screen. The definition is amazing. It doubles the amount of picture that you get to squeeze into one box. It has all kinds of wonderful things. It's a real spectrum hog. Right now, if we provide one high-definition channel digitally, it takes the same space as we could put 4 or 5 standard definition channels. So therefore, we as broadcasters, we have to look at for instance, in the evening, we may run Nova as a high-definition program. But in the afternoons, when we're running Sesame Street, it's still probably going to be standard definition so that we can squeeze in a K through 12 or a higher ed channel or whatever it is we choose to put in there. There's a lot of debate about high-definition TV. Still, after 8 years, we formed a grand alliance, and everybody went to work and said, okay, let's create the format. Well, we did that, but there's still quite a bit of debate. The problem is, we're now working with our colleagues on the computer side of the house to try to make the television and the computer merge, and each have their own formats. Which should it be interlaced? Should it be scanned? How should all this work? And my answer to that is yes, it should work. There should be one piece of equipment that I have in my home that can do both. It should be interoperable, and that's what we're working on now. Now, what does that mean to us as consumers? Well, it means a lot of things. Right now, and see, I'm not so sure that I'm ready to change, because Right now, I have, in my home, I have a wonderful speech recognition device. This device is great. I can talk to it. I can say, record the movie at 8 o'clock for me, please. The movie gets recorded. I can say, go and switch that channel for me, and it gets changed. But one of these days, my daughter's going to get old enough, see, so that when she's going to the mall, I have to be there and be able to program that VCR. When people call me and say, my VCR is still flashing 12 o'clock, I just tell them, get a 10-year-old kid in. They'll know exactly how to handle it. Well, we do have to replace our present televisions, no question about it, in a digital environment. But does that mean I have to go and spend $3,500 for a new set? Probably, at some point. But in the interim, you'll be looking at a $200 or less converter box that sits on your television and will be able to make it talk to the digital signals that are coming in and be able to show it to you on standard definition TV. When we finally get there, though, when we become a digital household, we will have a necessary piece of equipment that is a television, computer, etc., etc., etc. And folks, today's youngsters understand this. Our kids know this, and they're excited about it, and they're looking forward to it, and we have to be ready for it as well. Nicholas Negroponte, who's an author and head of the Media Lab at MIT, and I'm sorry that's not Murray and Tishomingo, describes the immediate future in his book, Being Digital, this way. He says that early in the next millennium, your right and left cufflinks or earrings may communicate with each other by low-orbiting satellites and have more computer power than your present PC. Your telephone won't ring indiscriminately. It will receive, sort, and perhaps respond to your calls like a well-trained English butler. In fact, your telephone probably won't resemble today's telephone. It'll be incorporated into your home so that your doorknob or your lamp talks to you. Or maybe it'll be a flat display on the wall, much like this screen is today, that is, when I'm there and not using it, it's just a piece of art. And by the way, it'll be my art because the English butler's going to filter this so that it's a beautiful picture of a train. But when my wife's in the room, it's going to be a beautiful piece of art that resembles something that she's into, quilts or whatever that is. I don't know what my wife's into. I've been home enough to know. But when we're both in the room, of course, it'll be a compromise. It'll be a quilt with a train on it. But then, the important thing is it'll turn into a video phone, computer, and TV. And it'll take care of our communications needs. We're going to talk about this more a little bit later. Are you still skeptical? Of course. Well, watch this excerpt from last week's edition of Scientific American Frontiers on PBS.
This cafe is just around the corner from MIT and Cambridge. As you can see, computers are everywhere here. I plug my laptop into the internet while I drink my tea. But if you think this is the ultimate in computers being everywhere, this is Thad Starner, who doesn't just take his computer wherever he goes. He wears it wherever he goes. You wear it everywhere?
Well, if I'm at a conference or out on the street, pretty much so, yes. You can get information at the strangest times, and it helps you manage it during your day.
Well, explain that to me. Let's say you're passing somebody in the hall and they say something to you interesting. What happens to that information? It goes into this little thing in your eye?
Basically, what we have here is a
what's
keyboard.
that?
This is my keyboard. You hit more than one button at a time to get letters or words.
Oh, it's like playing a clarinet or something.
Yeah, almost exactly like that.
When you click those words in, do you see them up on your eye there?
Yeah, this is a private eye, and what it does.
Does it bother you to just see out of one eye all day long?
And what's nice about this device is that it looks like I see words on top of your nose right now. As I'm sitting here with you, I've typed in like the dates and who this is for and who you are and where we are. And that then starts pulling up files from my past, to remind me about what I want Yeah, actually, they let me use it on tests now. If I have it.
Yeah, what do you mean they'll let you use it on tests?
I have all my books online,
Naturally.
but the point that the professors make is that if I have this with me all the time, then it's part of me, right?
Yeah.
And I'll have it out in the field, so there's no reason why, I shouldn't be.
So in a way, your professors have already accepted this as an auxiliary brain. And already in local MIT hangouts, Media Lab students with their auxiliary brains slumming pouches across their bodies no longer raise neighborhood eyebrows. Most wear their private eyes like Thad Starner mounted on eyeglasses. Brad Rose is setting his own jauntier fashion trend. The computers worn by this group of cyborgs, as they call themselves, are not yet networked together. But already they're experimenting with wireless links both within the group and to the internet. And in fact, one of the Media Lab cyborgs is already online most of the time. Steve Mann's wearable computer is even equipped with a head-mounted camera, and he's continually transmitting images from his everyday life to his very own webpage.
Steve is evidently over at the food trucks wearing the WearCam on his head, and we can see what he's seeing. All right, so Steve's in line right now. He's looking at the menu here, and it looks like there's a few people ahead of him, so it's not too long of a wait. We can click on the next image he's sent most recently to see the menu up closer and see what our choices are at this particular food truck.
I was about to receive what, to the best of my knowledge, is my first email from a cyborg.
So here's a piece of mail from Steve, and he's asking if you want falafel.
You know what's great about this? If all I saw was his email, all I'd see was I had a choice of whether I wanted falafel or not.
Right.
Falafel was nice, I like falafel.
Uh-huh.
But when I look at the picture and I see this picture of the whole menu, I can see I can get tabbouleh if I wanted. So tell him I want some tabbouleh.
Okay, some tabbouleh it is.
A few weeks later, I got to meet Steve Mann in person. Steve, hi.
Hi.
What are you working on?
Alan.
Yes. Alan.
Yeah.
How can you tell?
Well, my computer recognized you. How are you doing?
How did you come find captured by Steve's video camera? My face was sent back to the main computer at the Media Lab and run through the face recognition program. The result was flashed back to Steve's computer. Steve, by the way, has a ham radio license, since as well as everything else, he's a walking radio transmitter.
Yeah, this thing on my head is an antenna. It's just a short window antenna. There's a copper.
There's a whole lot of screen in there. What is it? I take it that's not to keep out mosquitoes. What does that do?
That's the ground plate for the antenna. My earlier rig.
Steve Mann's been experimenting with personal wearable sensing devices for almost a decade now. Medieval filing system here. And most of them are still stashed away in his dorm room at MIT.
Very simple filing system. I've got.
This is his first helmet-mounted rig, dating from the mid-1980s, and already possessing a certain period charm all its own.
Unit went over my head like this, and then I could see my screen here. These are the shoes that I was experimenting with.
The shoes were able to monitor his footsteps.
So inside here, I had various sensors that produce an electrical signal. What it would do.
But for sheer inventiveness, it would be hard to beat these thermostat-equipped Greeks able to wirelessly control his dorm room air conditioner. So you never had to get out of bed to change this thermostat because your underwear was changing the thermostat.
Yeah.
I thought I'd just seen the ultimate in wearable computers.
Let me ask you to put that on the ground and rest your foot on it.
I'm in the lab of MIT professor Neil Gershenfeld.
Let me ask you to shake hands. Now look at the screen here. That's data in your body. So let go, it'll stop. Shake hands. Our bodies are data networks right now.
You mean this thing,
That's
the
putting data-
thing under my shoe,
It's putting data into your body.
into my foot, up my leg, through my arm, down?
Yes, and then when you touch me, it goes through my body. And it goes up to my shoe computer.
Oh, come on. You've turned me into a computer.
A data network.
I am the internet.
You're a body now. It's your. Now that's it's very important. if you let me have that back, I'll show you how
I
it works.
can't believe this.
It's actually very important that you're not the internet, you're a body now.
I'm the worldwide Alan.
You're the person-wide, because here's the
Because it never goes, it doesn't go to anybody else but who I touch.
It's your bits.
My bits, yeah.
Now-
What's in here? This is,
Let's think about your shoes.
yeah.
First of all, there's plenty of space there. Nobody's fighting over getting access to your shoe right now.
Yeah.
That'll change, but right now nobody is. Second, there's power. When you walk, you make lots of power. And in a couple minutes, I'll show you a shoe power source. With this mechanism, your shoe can talk to your body, turning your body into a data network. Suddenly, a shoe foot bottom makes more sense than a laptop. You have your shoes when you get dressed. Rather than carrying technological clutter around, just get dressed and let your shoe do all this work.
I mean, think about it, right? I just put my
That's
shoes
right.
on, all of a sudden I'm wired up.
Now, for example, when we shake hands, you can give me your business card. If you pick up a telephone, you can give it phone numbers. If you touch a doorknob, you authenticate.
This can have a really large amount of data stored in here.
It's a computer. Your body's a network and it's a computer. Well, this is where we're working on your shoe power source. When I walk, I'm making up to maybe 50 watts, a lot of power. And we think we can get at least a watt out from that. So what we're developing here are the shoe inserts. So this is, there are a couple of different types. This is a piezopolymer laminate. And when you step on this, the spring stores energy, puts it into stretching this, which makes charge this way.
And sure enough, with each simulated footstep, the power builds up.
Here, we're starting to become a sneaker manufacturer. Working with Nike, we made our own shoe mold to start molding soles, where we're going to start taking these things, putting them into the soles, connecting them to the shoe computer I showed you there, to make it something that lives in your shoe and you can forget. And also, one of the other nice implications is, with a shoe-powered thing like this, eventually you'll run out of power if you're sitting, so you need to go for a little walk and clear your head and power up your
I
shoe.
love this technology. All this technology comes down to taking a few steps with your feet. Okay, it was finally time to step into the future myself and see what the cyborgs see. I was about to experience augmented reality.
Okay, I'm looking at Jeff now.
What do you want me to look at?
If you could just turn to your left and look over at that.
All around the lab are little color-coded signs. This way to the egress. When the camera on my head mount sees one, it triggers my onboard computer, which then displays in my video goggles a predetermined message.
Do not throw away any of the rolls from this printer.
That message needn't be just text. In this case, when I look at an electrical panel, I'm treated to a computer animation of what's inside. And when I look at a video screen, my onboard computer plays me a video recognition project. Eventually, all sorts of things in my environment, say a painting in a museum or a copier machine in my office, might trigger my wearable computer to provide me with useful background information.
Central, meeting today at 11.
Surrounded by most of the cyborgs presently on the planet, I wondered about the next generation of wearable computers. Do you have like fashion conversations with you? Do you give much thought to different ways that this stuff looks?
People give it a lot of thought, actually. There's a lot of debate whether it's good to cover the eye at all, whether you might want it on your arm, a screen. We have an undergraduate student working on an even better private eye, which would only take up a fraction of this space. It's a little prism that'll directly show you the screen and yet be clear and allow your eyes to be seen by the person you're having a conversation with.
Hopefully be completely invisible. One won't be able to tell that we're wearing special glasses. We won't have these, this display is about 6 years old with a big cathode ray tube up on top of it. You know, they're getting smaller and smaller. Eventually we'll have them built into a regular pair of spectacles, and the only evidence that somebody is wired will be the fact that their eyes sort of go across in a sort of reading motion.
Yeah.
And we'll think that they're either possessed by the devil or on the internet.
And there's some precedent for this, and it used to be when Walkmans first came out, everybody said, you know, who want to wear this thing on their head, these headphones all the time, and then all of a sudden it became stylish, and nobody gives it a second thought. Like, when you see somebody wearing a Walkman, big deal.
In fact, fashion designers have already started to play with the idea of incorporating computers into clothing and accessories. These sketches were submitted by students of the French fashion designer Jean-Paul Gaultier for a contest held in his Paris studio last spring. For today's cyborgs, that's already the boring stuff. For them, what's really interesting isn't what's now possible. It's what's out there, just beyond.
Is that absolutely amazing? See if I can switch it up here.
Am I in there? Okay. For more information on this program, visit our website at the address listed there. It's www.pbs.org, and you can use the search engine or you can use the command line to find that particular episode of Scientific American Frontiers. So what do we do with all of this power? Well, we harness it for peaceful purposes, of course. At least that's what our intent is. How does all this digital stuff affect our clients today, our students? Well, for one thing, it increases our ability to serve them. It also increases the demands on them from other sources, making their attention span even worse than it is today. Does anybody have that same problem? But it increases your competition's ability to serve your students. Now think about that. On the other hand, if you look at it whether the glass is half empty or half full, it allows us to serve our competition's clients. But serve them what? Vaporware? No. The technology is just around the corner. In our case, it's smart televisions. It's a television, a computer, a phone, and a filter combination. There's a video server out there somewhere that's just waiting to provide you with video on demand. And I know that because we just bought our first one at our station in Pennsylvania, in Bethlehem. And by the way, we're a suburb of Philadelphia. We serve the Philly area. We now have, our station is being operated by a computer. It's called the Local Insertion Server, or Liz. And Liz is operating our station. Liz has 36 gigabytes of storage media for our video. That's not enough. We're headed for a terabyte and beyond to store video on this particular computer so that it can run our station and play back our programs and our station breaks, etc. And it's wonderful. We will never buy another videotape machine at our television station. We're through with that. We're into computers and servers. But when we go a step further, we get into video on demand, that's when it means something. That means that you as an educator decide that at 10:13 or 9:24 on a Wednesday morning, you want to show your class an episode of Nova from 2 weeks ago, and I use that simply as an example. You simply dial in the proper coordinates, the server sends it down the internet, or whatever the net is going to be, and you'll be able to have that, capture that into your classroom. Our viewers can download programs instead of watching them in real time. Now think about that. We can send you that episode of Nova in 2 seconds as a digital file. You then hit the proper icon on your computer, your smart television. It brings that episode up and you watch whatever it is that you want to out of that episode. You can tell it in advance what you want to see. You want to see just the Alan Alda piece of Scientific American Frontiers, that's what it will show you. But in addition to that, because we're now digital and compressed, we can also send you the teacher materials that go along with that episode right to your desktop on your computer as an icon. You click that, you get it. If you're the teacher, if you're a student, you don't get it because we filter it. And that's important. And folks, this is happening today. I was at the Sarnoff Institute in New York not long ago. And you talk about some computer guys, geeks, excuse me, it's true, they are. At the Sarnoff Institute, these guys look like the cyborgs we just saw. But what they were showing us was digitally compressed television that can do other things. What they're doing is they're capturing some of the spectrum while they're showing us a 60-second commercial on BMWs. They said, well, if you're going to do it, you may as well do it well. So they're using a BMW commercial. While they're showing that, they're also compressing it so that some parts of that 6 megahertz that they didn't actually need, they were sending us data. So that when it pops into my smart television and I say, boy, That 325, I need that. I mean, I need a sassy-looking red 325 that's convertible. But I want to see what kind of interiors there are for that particular model. I click on the icon, and guess what? All of the data is there. I can look at the interiors, I can check the engines, all downloaded in the same 60 seconds that it took to run the commercial. It's happening. It's happening right now. And we can control it. We can harness it. It's about being time-bound and place-bound for our students, though. It's time-shifting and sorting and prioritizing. That's part of what the filter can do for your students. Helping them sort through the 500-plus channel environment to provide them with programs they want and need. Their lives are busy with kids, soccer, swimming, scouting, trips to the mall. They want to be able to learn on their schedule, at their place, and at their time. We can provide that by offering them a service that is not bound by today's time and location constraints. Computers can do this for us. In fact, they can do a lot more for us than we realize right now. Take our cars, for example. Smart cars are beginning to be a common occurrence. How many people have seen smart cars? The ones that have the global positioning system that can tell you exactly where you are on the planet at any given time. Yep, they're smart cars. They can know exactly where they are, and they can tell you how to get there. In fact, they can use a speech system to talk to you and tell you exactly where to go, much like my mother-in-law does when she's in the back seat. Well, the problem with that, right, one of the reasons that that's not in almost every car in America today is we have some legal issues that have to be dealt with. What if my smart car tells me to take a wrong turn and I wind up in a bad neighborhood? Who's liable for that? So, in that case, there are some legal problems that have to be worked out, and they will be. And then there's the refrigerator, and I love this. This is great. If I'm out of milk, can't my refrigerator tell my car so it can remind me to stop on the way home? Of course it can. Just as my cabinet can monitor the items in the pantry, alert me when I'm running low on Rotel tomatoes. All of this can be done right now, today, with the UPC codes that are on each item. My toaster, by the way, should be able to be programmed by the Central English Butler to always get that toast just right, something that does not happen today. Or better yet, whoops, why can't my car just pull into the Quickie Mart and tell me what to shop for? That's the whole business of electronic English butlers that we were talking about. Actually, an English butler is just an interface agent. More to the point, a series of personal filters. That's the term personal filter. It keeps popping up, and it's important. Filtering out the unwanted phone calls, 499 of those 500 channels, but feeding me things that I've told it that I want to know, like a really good executive assistant. Making it more difficult for us to connect with our students, though. We have to have a product that they want. We have to become indispensable. It's about content, ladies and gentlemen. The right content will get through the filter. And these new learners, these members of the Sesame Street to MTV generation, understand this, I think, much better than we do. As an example, my 8-year-old child, God bless her little heart, has her own home page on the World Wide Web. Now, should this strike terror into us as educators, I submit to you, it should. Heck yes. Well, for one thing, you should meet my daughter. It'll scare you too if you do. My mother and I are looking for that military school that'll take her now and give her back when she's a lieutenant colonel. We must understand the changes in technology, though, if we are to connect to these young people at more than 2,400 baud, because that's just too slow and it won't work today. So let's assume that we understand the near-term technology. We're all familiar with the infobomb. Let's move on to the post-information age for a moment. More to the point, where we really remove the limitations of time and geography. Are we smart ready? Are we ready to become a neural network? Are we ready to become a body network, as we saw Helen Arnold become one just a few minutes ago? Are we ready for that microchip implant in our wrists that will contain all our vital information transferred to other computers throughout our life? Yikes. That's all I have to say. The Sesame Street to MTV people of today are digital. They're ready for this, and they expect no less from us. You must be prepared to operate in the digital world if you want to communicate effectively with your students. Remember, competition, and this is important, think about this. Your competition is not the university in the next county. It's not Northeastern necessarily. It's not necessarily Rogers State or Oklahoma University. It's your colleagues in Tokyo, California, Nebraska, and you fill in the blank. Oh, and by the way, don't forget, your students will be competing with 2 billion Chinese and Indian students who are going online very soon. These people start from scratch, ladies and gentlemen. This is both good and bad. They don't have the level of sophistication our students have. That's correct. But they also don't have the lifetime of bias, turf, and stereotypes about how learning should occur. But we can and we must be competitive, relevant, and indispensable. We just have to be digital. I'd be pleased to answer questions. If I could see you, I'd be pleased to answer questions. If I can't answer them, there are 2 very good people in this front here who can. Dr. Tinsworth knows more about distance learning than I ever will, and Bob Neal put together a fiber optics network in the panhandle of Oklahoma that I think is still operating out there. So would you please do questions, or we'd be delighted to just shut up and sit. Thank you all very much.
I would like to make a few comments about the video that we showed sort of as a prelude this morning. It was made not to be shown on the big screen. It is digital though. And in terms of it, it is certainly not broadcast quality and so forth. But it was made for we are celebrating our 50th anniversary this year. And so that video contained many shots from our archives and really had a lot of old technology in it, but that was the purpose of the film, to show how the school's been advancing technology over the last 50 years. If any of you have any questions about the production side of that, some of you that were in the video workshop that we had last night, it was done in Premiere, used many of the same kinds of things that you were looking at last night in that program, and I'd be glad to answer questions that you have about that. In the meantime, we have some time here for a break, and then our sessions will be mainly again in the student union and also in the distance learning classroom at Reynolds Center. If you weren't here yesterday and you need to find somebody to help you find the way to those locations, we have plenty of OSU Okmulgee people around, and at least today we don't have rain. Maybe the sun came from Sesame Street, but we do have better weather today. So we'll see you in the next sessions, which begin a little later.